Hello, Tungsten Miner here. I've started this series with a whole lot of stuff actually already built. Of course, all these gardens and my house and lots of the technologies and different things already created. And I thought it might be interesting to show how I go about starting a big project like this. So, as I leave my house, I've got my inventory full of a bunch of things that will be handy in beginning a completely new project in a completely new location. So I've got some regular chests. I've got a filler, which is a BuildCraft block that allows you to both flatten, level, and arrange all sorts of blocks and areas of the world very rapidly, all at once, really. Uh, that requires some landmarks to set out the areas that you want to shape. I've got a diamond saw. In fact, I've got a pair of diamond saws that allow you to do the microblocks thing, where you slice things in half. Of course, I've got some of my standard equipment, a crafting station, slime crossbow, my bronze hammer. Now, I don't know if I've shown this off before, but the bronze hammer works just like a pickaxe, except it digs out a 3 by 3 section of blocks at the same time. Which is very, very handy, of course, for making large tunnels and making lots of progress on building things very rapidly. I've got myself a lumber axe, which I think I've shown before, where if you dig out the bottom block of a tree, it will go dig out the rest of the tree all at once. My normal pickaxe has silky touch on it, and so it won't actually convert, say, a coal ore block into just chunks of coal. And sometimes you actually need to do that. You don't want to get the coal ore block directly. So I'm just bringing this along just in case. I've got my chisel, which I can use for altering the appearance of blocks. My porter, of course, to get back home if I need to. An energy cell to power the filler. A scoop just in case I find beehives in an area where I want to move them or get them out of the way. And that's it. So in addition to my ordinary things, these are the tools I use for getting started on a new project. And as it would happen, I've forgotten something. Along with the hammer, the second tool that Tinker's Constructs adds that aids tremendously in large-scale works is this excavator, which works exactly like the hammer, except it works like a shovel instead of a pickaxe, so it will dig out dirt blocks instead of stone. So yeah, definitely want to make sure to bring that along as well. In fact, I think I'll grab my shovel while I'm thinking of it. And is there anything else I might like to bring with me? No, I don't think so. Oh, you know what? Torches. I should bring some torches. I'm going to go grab some torches, and then I'm going to head off and scout out a location, and I'll be right back with you. Here I am, about a little more than a kilometer away from my home, a ways off to the north, and I have found this very interesting island. It's obviously a colder climate, so as I get off the beach, it's a mega spruce biome, which has, of course, all these mega spruces all over the place. And these guys are mostly fir trees, which means when you break them, you'll get fir saplings, and they will, in fact, grow back into fir trees. And as I'm walking along, oh, here we go, found some fir saplings. As I'm walking along, you can see it's pretty heavily forested. There's some cold weather flowers and other plants, but mostly it's these big, big trees. The other nice thing is that the island itself is relatively flat. There's a small rise as I get towards the center here, which is probably where I would want to make my castle. And yeah, from here, I think this is about the highest point on the island. And if I look at my map, you can see here I am about in the center. And it's not exactly an island. It connects to the mainland off in that direction. But I've got this nice place right in the center here that I could make a fairly imposing castle. The one thing that I'm not too sure about is all these trees. It's kind of nice to be able to see the structure that you've built, and this would pretty well obscure anything I might build here. So this is one option. I'll keep it in mind, but I'm going to go off and see if I can't find a more interesting place. Okay, here I am a bit further south, and I found this interesting mountain here that might actually make for a very nice place for some kind of tower or fortress, castle kind of thing. There's this rise at the top here, which is kind of problematic because if we look carefully, we can see it's really quite narrow, and there's not a lot of stuff I can do with it. Although down here I can see an iron deposit, which is very nice, and some flat spaces down here, which could make for some good, expansion of gardens or some kind of arboriculture, orchard maybe, maybe pens for animals. So that kind of bodes well for this mountaintop situation. And there's a couple of other hilltops off in this direction that maybe could have nearby towers or other sorts of stuff. And there's lots of interesting vegetation down below, so I think this is looking pretty promising as a locale. And I think what I'm going to do is spend a little time preparing my site and thinking through exactly where I want what kinds of things to go. Alright, I think I've decided I'm going to start by getting this little last ledge out of the way. And to do that, I've brought along my filler, which is going to give me a good deal of horsepower to be able to do this all at once. So I'm going to set up the filler and then show you how that works. Now that I've got the tedious setup work done, I'm going to show you exactly what to do and how to use this filler. The way a filler works is you first define a region that you want the filler to work on. And you do that by laying out these landmarks. So I've got one right there, and that's going to define the kind of corner of the region. Now I'm going to put that block there and put this one directly above that one. And actually, I should probably get some sleep. Just a moment. Okay, now that it's daylight again, so I've got this landmark, and directly above it, I've got the second landmark. Now my third landmark, I'm going to place, over here, and I'm going to want to place it far enough away and in line with that landmark there, so that we're at the same altitude here. Let me grab my shovel. And it's important that everything line up, or the landmarks won't be able to see each other when we finally try and activate everything. So, here we go. And what I'm going to do is just build a little extension out here, so that as I go further and further away from my landmark, it gets harder and harder to tell whether I've got them really lined up or not. And by doing something like this, it makes it a lot easier to know if you're on the right track. Now, you can't extend this process forever. The landmarks will only be able to find each other if they're within 64 meters of one another. So I really can't go all that far. And this is probably about as far as I'm going to try to go in my first round. As you can see, it lines up almost with the end of this higher area. So I'm going to drop that one there, which means now I've got that one up the top, I've got that one in the corner, I've got this one here, and now I need another one that's at the opposite corner. And as you can see, I already went ahead and made my little bridge to define where that last one is going to go. So I drop him down, and I go back to that corner. And just right-click on this one. If everything works, I should get a rectangle, a three-dimensional rectangle. So this one goes off and finds the one off that way, goes off and finds the one that way, goes off and finds the one up there, and then encloses the entire region defined by those landmarks. So now I've got everything all lined up. The next step is to actually take our filler and plop it down right next to the landmark. So I'm going to drop a block there, drop a filler there, and now the landmarks have all popped off, and I'm going to go collect them because they're basically they're made by taking a redstone torch and adding a little bit of lapis to the top. And while lapis isn't super hard to come by, at least not in this mod pack, they're worth picking up again, at least. Okay, So now you can see my rectangle has changed from red bars to these yellow and black bars, which means the machine recognized the area and thought, yep, this is a valid area, I know what to do with this. So I'm going to come in here, and the filler has an interface that allows you to specify exactly what it is you're trying to do. So this one means fill in the area. It'll take whatever blocks you put in this inventory, and it will try to make sure any open spaces are filled in with that block. Of course, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do, so I'm not going to choose this option. I can flatten, which is going to mean take the top layer off and smooth it out so that I get a smooth floor. Frame is going to make a set of blocks that follow the rectangle, this black and yellow frame that I've got. Horizon is going to remove all of the blocks except the bottommost layer and fill in that layer. Pyramid is going to build a pyramid and can either be centered or a top pyramid. Stairs can be, I'm not entirely sure, I don't remember this setting. Box is just going to make a box around the outside edges where the sides are filled in, so that frame means no filled in sides, box means filled in sides. And clear means remove everything, which is exactly what I want. This allows me to say do or do not excavate. So if I'm filling in a frame, for example, that generally means the center is going to be hollow. But I can click this setting to mean don't hollow out the center, just leave it alone and put the frame in on top of whatever happens to be there. But actually I do want it to excavate. So now everything should be all set, and the only thing lacking is power. So I've got my hardened energy cell here, and I'm going to configure it to output power on all of its sides so that I don't have to care which direction things are facing. I'm going to pick this guy up, and then it should just start to work as soon as I plop this down next to it. So the way this thing works, a little bit funny, is it shoots out these red blocks. And every time a red block hits one of the blocks, it's going to destroy that block, or at least work on it as though it were hit with a pickaxe. So round after round after round after round is going to shoot out of my filler and start tearing down this whole structure, which, as you can imagine, is going to go a whole lot faster than what I could do with my shovel on my own, even with my excavator on my own. It is, however, going to use a fair bit of power, and there's a very real possibility that my energy cell will get depleted because this is a very large project. Now, if I happen to go over here while this is happening, no big deal to me. I get to collect all these blocks. There's actually a setting in the configs to say do or do not allow the blocks to really get dropped. I always turn it on because I'm not too worried about cheating by using this technique. It's kind of enough tediousness to try and set it all up and make it all work, not to have to worry about it. There is another machine in the BuildCraft mod that is meant for quarrying, and it will actually drill a tunnel all the way down to the bedrock layer, and that will spit out any blocks you give it into a piping system, which you can then throw off into an inventory or something like that. So yeah, my inventory is full, and one of the things I thought to bring along was a couple of chests. So I'm just going to put those off to the side here and drop all of this dirt in there, along with everything else that I found. So this is going to happen to take a little while to get through all of its pieces here. So I'm going to be back in a bit when this thing is finished working. Alright, as we can see, the filler has stopped doing its work, but that's not because it's done. That's because we've drained the energy cell. So, mind you, that was 2 million RF worth of work. And basically, this is what that has bought us. It's carved off maybe a half, a little bit more than a half, say, of that hilltop. So it's got a bit more work to do, which means, of course, I need to bring that energy cell back home and power it up again. In the meantime, though, some interesting observations. We've got a deposit of marble. We've got some red granite. Over here, we've got some iron ore. Now, I've mentioned the ore generation in this mod pack a couple of times, and it's a little different than usual Minecraft. Of course, here we are standing at y equals 120, way, way, way above the normal level for iron. And 2, we can see a lot of iron has already been exposed here. So the way that Oregen works, at least for iron in this world, is iron only spawns in mountaintops. And when it spawns in kind of clusters that make up roughly a stack and a half of iron ore blocks. And of course, processing them, you can turn that into a lot more iron. So they don't happen very often, and they're kind of harder to find because you actually have to go find a mountaintop to get them. But when you do get them, you get a lot. And it's usually enough to satisfy most projects. Now, there are a few mods that are really, really heavy on iron ore, GalactiCraft being one of them. So maybe one iron deposit won't be quite enough for that purpose. But by and large, it'll get you really, really far. But you do have to work to get them, and especially early game, that's a little bit difficult. That's why I've made tin so easy to find and copper so easy to find, both of which can be found pretty much in any kind of sea level gravel bank in the case of tin, or just in the opening of a cave mouth for the case of copper. What that has produced is nearly a full large chest of dirt and a little bit of a bunch of other things, including 9 pieces of iron ore. So we can tell we've only started kind of scraping off the surface of that iron deposit. Anyway, I'm going to run back to my home base and fill up this energy cell and come right back. Back again, and with a full battery, so we can set this thing to work again. So one interesting thing to notice on this side of the construction is that we've actually gotten down to the bottommost layer we're going to get to, or very close to it with the dirt, but not so much with the stone. So every one of those red blocks that comes flying out does a certain amount of damage, if you will, to the underlying block. But if that's not enough to break it, then, well, it doesn't break, and it has to get hit again and again and again. So dirt blocks, being a lot softer, break a lot more easily, and therefore those layers will kind of get ahead of the layers of stone. And, of course, every red block that goes out requires a certain amount of power, which means it's going to cost a lot more power to flatten out an area that has a lot of harder stone in it than it will to flatten out an area that's mostly dirt. Anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. Let's see how well this thing finishes up. Turns out my energy cell wasn't quite enough to finish the job this time either, and things have been draining off. One thing I remembered, though, is my flux-infused jet plate can also serve as a charger for any item I have in my hotbar. So I've turned on the charger and put my energy cell in the hotbar, and now I'm letting it charge back up from my suit, from the power that I've got with me. Now this takes 2 million RF to get full. Fortunately, my suit stores 60 million RF, so plenty of power. Yeah, so I'm going to carry on picking up the debris here and let this energy cell charge up some more. All right, energy cell is full again. Plug it back in and let the machine go to work. Hopefully this time we'll actually finish the job. So now I'm standing kind of at the edge of where it's working, and you can see how many of the red blocks have to go into each one of these granite blocks to break it open. It's a lot more than dirt. Dirt takes like 2 or 3, and that's all. So yeah, that's why things are slowing down quite a bit in our progress. Okay, so finished cleaning everything up. I've got a completely smooth hilltop to work with. And I think that's where I'm going to end this particular video. So next time I will pick up with where do I go from here to build some kind of castle on this hilltop. So if you liked the video, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button to see more like this one. Otherwise, talk to you later.